everybody, welcome back to Kielbasa Corner, where today I'm in a bit of a rush because my dryer just broke down and I need to see about repairing that. And I've got something coming up tomorrow that's gonna put a limit on my activities for a while. More on that later. So it's time to crank out another delicious fresh sausage. It's a terrifically tasty Turkish tube to tempt your taste buds. I'm making this lamb kofta sausage that everyone's gonna love. So let's get started. For my meat today, I've got a boneless leg of lamb. If you can get lamb shoulder, that would be better because you won't need to add any fat to it. But the leg is pretty lean, so I'll be adding beef fat to it to get between 25 and 30% fat content. And I did try to find some lamb breast to take fat from because that stuff is at least 50% fat, but that was unsuccessful, so the beef fat is gonna have to do. And this is going to be a small batch today because this stuff is spendy. So I'll get this cut up and weighed, then add my fat in, and then we'll break out gnarls and grind this meat. Wow, that couldn't have worked out any more perfectly. That is almost exactly 5 pounds of meat. I'm going with a 4.5 millimeter plate on this one, but as usual, you grind yours as coarse or as fine as you like. So, here is our mince. Looks great. Now I'll pop this into the refrigerator and work up the spice bill. This is not a traditional recipe. As usual, when I'm crafting a new recipe, I cherry pick what I like from existing recipes and then add in a little my own influence. And I suggest you do the same because that is the beauty of making your own. In this case, I'm amping up the flavor with heavy seasoning and a bit of garam masala, which you're not gonna find in any of the recipes that I saw. So now let's take a look at my spice blend for this Lebanese link. This time, let's get started with the binder, and I'm using dry breadcrumbs for the binder today. And that's something that you'll find is very common in a lot of fresh sausages. It really does give it a nice mouthfeel and helps it retain some moisture. Now, these are just plain fine breadcrumbs. There are no need to use panko breadcrumb in here. It's just gonna soak up water and kind of get mushed around in the meat anyway. Now on to the salt. I'm going with a 2% salt content, and that is any plain non-iodized salt that you want to use. This is some coriander seed that I toasted and then ground up in a coffee grinder, and I always like to grind whatever I can fresh because it's just gonna give you more pop and more flavor. I've got one of my favorite ingredients here. This is Aleppo chili flake, and if you don't have the Aleppo chili flake, go ahead and swap it with some sweet or hot paprika. This is some cumin seed that I also toasted and ground fresh. And I have just a little bit of cinnamon. Now this one, I didn't toast, but I did grind it fresh, so it's got a lot of aroma and a lot of flavor. If you're using pre-ground, you might want to go with a little more than I have here, but be careful because you're not making a cake. And this is that garam masala that I was talking about that you don't really find in other recipes, and it actually has a lot of these other spices already blended in, so it's got a lot of the similar notes, so completely optional. I just want to put it in to add another little layer of flavor. Now let's look at the fresh ingredients that I'll be using today. I've got some nice chunky cloves of garlic and a sort of medium to small onion, and I'll puree those together in a food processor with just a little bit of water to get them smoothed out. And I also like to mix in some fresh herb, both for flavor and aesthetic. Those little green dots in there look really cool. And I will use either parsley or mint or cilantro or any blend of those three. Today I'm using some flat leaf parsley from the garden, and I did just prune that a couple days ago, so it's not the prettiest parsley, but I'm gonna chop it all up and mix it into a sausage anyway, so no big deal if it's not perfect. And I also have some fresh mint from the garden. I really like the flavor of mint with the lamb, but it is pretty strong, so I'm not going to go very heavy with that. I'll go with sort of 3 parts parsley to 1 part of this fresh mint. And dried mint works here as well. There's my pureed onion and garlic, and I added in 1 cup of water, not only to help work this into a slurry, but also to hydrate the dried breadcrumbs. These are gonna puff up with that and lock in that moisture. So now all that's left to do is mix this one up. Don't be shy now. You're gonna have to get right down in there. Since this is a fresh sausage, you don't need to mix it up nearly as much as you need to mix a smoked sausage. Just want to get this one really well incorporated. No need to develop that real sticky mix that you do when you're making a smoked sausage. And now you're essentially done, and this is my version of lamb kofta. Well, I will let this set for at least a couple of hours to help the flavors mingle around in there and hydrate those breadcrumbs, but now is the time when you want to break yourself off a little piece and go fry that up or grill it. You can even pop that in the microwave just to check it for seasoning, and if you want to add something in there, go for it. As far as cooking this, you can form it into patties or any shape you want. Traditionally, you'll see it on skewers a lot, and I do like these flat bladed type of skewers better for ground meat because it won't roll around on them as much when you're flipping it. But since I am the sausage king, you know I'm gonna get this into a casing. In sticking with the theme, I'm going to be using natural sheep casings today, which are classically a pain in the butt to use because they're more delicate than a hog casing, and they are a smaller gauge, which requires more pressure when you're stuffing them. And to make things even more difficult for myself, I'm going to be using the little baby stuffer because I am doing a small batch, but this guy does not have nearly the torque as Big Stan. So give this one a try, but if things aren't working out, then I'll move it over to the big guy. So these casings are 20 to 30 millimeter casings, and I have a 15 millimeter horn. And as usual, you know who
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Is here to take care of any air bubbles that might form when I'm cranking this one out. So now, it's time to lock and load and crank out this Mediterranean Mamba. get in there again. Oh man. That should be illegal. That is obscenely delicious. Lamb is one of these polarizing meats. It's got a strong flavor that I can see being off-putting, but when seasoned with herbs and spices that pair with or even enhance that flavor, for me, this is top of the food chain stuff. And the seasoning in this sausage is sublime. It's flavor-blasted kofta with an added pop from that natural casing. And the casing also holds in juice. It's just oozing with that hot meat nectar. And I did make a trad skewer with the leftover stuff from the grinder. Absolutely fantastic as well, so you don't need to stuff your sausages, but it does give them a little extra texture, and it's a lot of fun. Yum. Now as for this is what I was talking about. Slowing me down for a little while. I had to have a second procedure done on the thumb here, so we're just gonna kind of take it as it goes with that and see what I can do. But if I slow down a bit, you'll know that that's the reason why. Now you can serve this sausage straight up, maybe with some rice, or pop it in a bun, but dressed up like this in a pita with some tzatziki and a pile of sweet, crunchy onions. Well, this is just one of my favorite dishes in the world. And it's something that I'm not gonna find in any restaurant close to where I live, and that hits right at the heart of why I like to cook. So, whether you take your kofta in a casing or in classic stick form, give this one a try, and I know you're gonna love it. Thanks for watching. And for your DIY tip of the day, a new feature on the channel, an old-fashioned dumb dryer. It's a pretty basic machine with just a few components. My dryer had stopped heating, and a quick test with a multimeter identified the problem, and it turned out to be a $7 thermal cutoff that was easy to find on Amazon. So, having a cheap multimeter and a basic grasp of how to use it can save you a ton of money in repairs or replacement for all types of things around the house. It's always satisfying fixing your own stuff.